Hey guys, it's Crispy. I'm here to do a review for the movie Avatar: The Way of Water. This is James Cameron's first narrative movie since Avatar, which was his most successful movie ever, and probably the most successful movie ever. And yeah, is it worth seeing? Is it not worth seeing? What's the good sides of it? What's the bad sides of it? I think that's all up to interpretation from those people. I've been hearing reviews where people have been raving it. I've been hearing reviews of people kind of shitting on it. It really depends on your outlook on Avatar and how you saw the first movie. And yeah, it's just it's just a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of you give a shit about Pandora to begin with and the world that James Cameron has created. Me, when I first watched the Avatar movie, I watched it on IMAX 3D because that's what people were recommending us to do, and I remember being a kid and being like, it didn't change the effect for me. Like I felt that yes, this movie is visually, it's impressive in every sense of the word, and it's something that I've never seen before. The way that they were able to utilize the CGI and the motion capturing and how real everything looked was incredible. Because usually when you put CGI in a movie, it's very noticeable and very fake. But James Cameron manages to make it look very organic and lived in, you know. And this it's no different in the second movie. It's the same feeling. It's James Cameron. What do you expect him to do with special effects? You know, he absolutely does it. He does his absolute best in making everything look as real as possible, so you can be immersed in the world that he has to give you. And that's what I pretty much have to say of this movie. Good, in my perspective, yes. It's not only good; it's better than the first one, because there's much more to explore. There's much better performances in this movie compared to the first one. What I would say the first one, the best performance was from Zoe Saldana. And Sam Worthington in the first one wasn't really good. Like, he was okay at the most part. Sometimes he was pretty bad. But in this one, he's pretty much good all throughout. He's very subdued. He's a man, like he's the man of the group. He's the father. He's a leader. And he's very honorable. He's very respectful and just so stoic. And that's for many of the characters involving with the Na'vi. They're almost all that way, and there actually are some despicable Na'vi characters and whatnot, but that's because this movie's 3 hours long, and they have a lot of characters to introduce, and they successfully were able to introduce all these characters without making it feel too crammed. But I think it's because of the time that they gave in. Again, what I'm saying, this movie's 3 hours. They were given enough time to introduce you to these characters and not make it feel very very crowded and very claustrophobic. It was very broad and just absolutely beautiful. The visuals here are better than the first, because you're dealing with the underwater world and a lot of this. I would say the first hour you're dealing with the same old place that you dealt with in the first one, and even me, I was sitting there just kind of going like, wow, this is great. Like, this is great watching this world again, but I really want something more from this movie. But I already knew what to expect because I was like, well, this movie's 3 hours, so I'm sure that they're gonna give it to you at some point. And after that first hour mark, they do. The plot goes into a place where the Sullys have to change their location because the threat that they're facing is so big that they have to go in hiding, and where they go to seek refuge is this world where it's the reef part of Pandora, where everyone lives in the water. They don't live in the water, but they live out of what they find in the water rather than in the forest, like doing all that, and you get to see another race of Na'vi. That they're all different types of Na'vi. There's just not, they all don't look alike. There is actually a difference with biology, the difference with look, and you kind of get to feel that sense of immersiveness through this entire world and how they all see each other, and it's really compelling to watch. And like I said, the performances in this movie are a lot better than the first one. There's a lot better actors in this movie. I will not tell you. I'm not going to tell you the entire cast because I think that's going to take away from the enjoyment. I think that you should come into this cold and really just get just get surprised by the actors that show up in this movie, because that's how it was satisfying to me. It's like, oh my god, that person's in there. That's cool. So I don't want to take away that enjoyment from you. I just want to let you know it's a good movie. It's better than the first one, in my opinion, and that's because there's way more to explore. There are better performances. The kids in this movie that are the kids of Jake Sully are incredible in this. They're really good. And I think that the characters were very significant. Like, I cared about these characters and the peril that they were in, and you didn't want any of them to die. And I think that's really important when you're sitting in a 3-hour movie and you need to be invested in something. And this movie successfully did that. And it if you want to see it, it really depends on how you felt about the first one. If you didn't like the first one, I don't think you should see it in the theater at very least. You know, you can rent it and probably understand that it is better than the first one. And you might like it better, because the biggest strength of the first one was that it wasn't the story, it was the special effects. And I'll say that for this one, it's not different. You know, the story is better, and the special effects are better. Basically, every aspect of this second movie is better than the first one. It's an understand. Like, for me, the question is this movie gonna make more money than the first one? Because that first one ended up making $2 billion. It was number one for 3 months until Alice in Wonderland took it down. And yeah, me personally, my prediction for the movie and how much it's gonna make, I think it's gonna make $300 million this first week. At least underneath it, like maybe $280 million, because the domestic gross, I think, is predicted to be at about 175 million, and I think it's gonna be maybe 100 and I think it's going to be at least 155 to 174 million dollars here in the United States, and in China it's projected to be 120 million dollars. Also, the European and the worldwide gross is going to add in altogether to about 338 to 360 million dollars. In the end of it all, it just really depends if this movie is going to stick through the entire 3 months the same way that this last Avatar movie did. There are other movies that are going to be coming out in the weekends to come up. Like Megan is going to come out. I think that's what that movie's called. It's that android chick movie. I wonder if it's going to be able to beat Avatar. I'm not sure. Because that was the thing, is in 2009 to 2010, there were a lot of movies that were coming out when Avatar was out, but they weren't good. It was like Little Red Riding Hood. It was like a dark reimagining. There were just shitty movies coming out in 2009 to the beginning of 2010 that they weren't able to beat Avatar. And I don't know if the competition this year compared to 2009 are the same. So it really depends if Avatar is going to be able to stick to the top 10 or stay at the top 1 for the next 3 to 4 months to be able to make its money back. Because I think it needs to make at least over 800 million to make its money back, and that's really hard. It needs to be the number 4 movie of all time, like domestically, to be able to make its money back. Because this movie is expensive. I think it's over 300 million, and advertising is also very expensive. It's not just how much money you put into making the movie; it's how much you put into selling it. And I know that they put in a lot of money into selling this movie. I did get into conversations with people about Avatar, this second movie, and how movies are not viewed the same way as they used to compared to like 9 to 13 years ago, and how the excitement has kind of gone away in cinema, and just movies altogether. Just it's not the same. It's just Marvel movies now, and that even for some people is just a controversial topic. Because people are very defensive towards these Marvel movies. And you know, that's a whole other conversation to put in. I'm just letting you know the interpretation of what people think about movies in general. And when it comes to Avatar is a very important discussion because it's the most successful movie ever made. I don't even think that Avengers beat Avatar. I think Avatar, the 2009 one, is still number 1. And I think that's because re-release the re-release of the movie in this past summer, and not only that, I think the year after, they released a director's cut, and the movie's been consistently just making a lot of money. There are people that are big fans of this movie, even though that the story isn't really different from many of the stories that have come out in recent histories in movies. Like, it's the same shit. It's a guy goes into an indigenous island and falls in love with one of the people living there, or a girl, whatever. And yeah, betrays his fellow man, and really finds morality with these new people that he meets, and sees the error of the people that he was raised with, and is able to rehabilitate himself and find a better life for himself. And yeah, it's been done 50 million times before, but the kudos to this movie is the special effects and how James Cameron shot these movies. The first movie was shot all through blue screen, and it looks incredible. This movie shot through blue screen. It looks incredible. The difference is that he knows that it's really hard to shoot water in CGI. That's really hard. They tried with Aquaman. It fucking looks really bad. Like, I don't like Aquaman. They try it with other movies. I'm sure they tried it with Black Panther, and it doesn't look bad. It looks okay, but it's very noticeable. Like, the water is something that's very difficult to pull off. And what James Cameron did is that he made a water tank and basically put his actors in there. He trained all his actors to be able to breathe underwater more than 3 to 8 minutes at a time, and he did that by hiring specialists, like, I guess, Navy SEALs people, to train them how to do that. And this is what he got. He shot basically underwater, and he was able to get the shots that he did, and then added everything else with CGI, and it looks absolutely incredible. You know, the lighting, like, that's very important as well, because when it comes to shooting water in CGI and putting all that detail in, it's the lighting, it's the way things move. You know, it's very important to put that in a movie, because even if you're just a regular audience member that doesn't really understand all of the technicalities to all that, you're still going to notice the errors in there. You're going to be, this doesn't look right. And he knew exactly what to do. He was like, all right, I'm going to put these motherfuckers underwater, and, you know, at least give them, like, not make them drown, but, you know, like, I want to be able to make the shots that I want to make, and he did it very successfully. And yeah, this movie's good. It's really good. I'm going to give it 7.5 bacon strips out of 10. I want to know what you guys think about this movie. I want to hear your opinions and whatnot. Just like, comment, subscribe, and I love you guys.